and a few African Americans. But in the sense, she essentially got a lot of uneducated people to vote for her. She made many promises, such as, better food stamps for those who are on food stamps, more money essentially. She also promised better education within her district. She promised a lot of things in which she hasn't actually done a single thing for those constituents that she, essentially rallied support from. Coming back to the point where she claims to be a person that was escaping persecution, the fun fact is her father was actually a part of Siad Barre's junta that, essentially rounded up innocent Isaac folk and killed them to the extent where 200 to 500,000 Isaacs were murdered for being of Isaac origin. So when she claims these things, having been from a genocidal family, I think this is a area of contention, and I think this is an area that we, as Somalilanders, have to convey to the world because most of these people don't know this. I mean, there are a few white folk that have made videos about this, but they haven't really gained any attention. We also have to look at the fact of her, her history after being kicked off of the Foreign Affairs Committee in around, I think it was February of last year. It clearly shows that she has no, political or a background in politics in general because she's essentially a part of this liberal group that supports anything that Democrats essentially feed them. She supports many things that we as Somalilanders would not support. She's also a supporter of genocide. She tried her best in that speech to label certain particular groups as non-Somali, stamping them as if, to me, logically speaking, she essentially just said that our blood, our lives are worthless and that we aren't essentially a part of anything and that we are, just a random group of people that popped up out of nowhere. So it's quite shocking that she made those type of statements. So I mean, there's no American patriotism in her speeches. She doesn't, essentially, like she said, work for America in general. In my opinion, as an American, as a person who strongly supports the Republican side, a side with values, she essentially does whatever her and her group is fed or what the Democrats feed her. So yeah, that's an area that I think we should honestly look into. And I hope that we are able to send, more evidence of this to publications such as, the Washington Examiner, the New York Times, and also we have to combat. I think he's a member of the Guardian. I think his name is Faisal. I'd have to link up what he said. He was actually supporting this genocidiary female. So we have to look into these sort of things. Passing it over to you guys.
Yeah, excellent points, Dr. Salman. In fact, contrary to working any level of patriotism towards America or American citizens of non-Somali origin and non-Somali origin of the type that she shares supposedly shares blood with, and not the Somali Shegato, who she was talking regarding the Somaliland people, who she said they are imposter Somalis, which is a strange term to coin regarding Somalilanders. But she doesn't. She holds the political system in America with deep contempt. She appears to think that she has hoodwinked the American public, and she's kind of laughing with her constituents, these chosen constituents of hers, and kind of saying that, don't worry, I'm in Congress. Whilst I'm in Congress and you have your daughter in there, you rest assured. Rest assured that I will be doing the work for you. What does that mean? What does that entail? And so we have to look at the actions she's taken over the last couple of years and what she means by that. And we need to see her movements in the last 2 years. So she's traveled to the Horn of Africa multiple times, and we need to look at who she's met with. And they have been confirmed genocide is, and we need to, in what capacity she was meeting with them, what she discussed. Did she relay any information, any secret information from in terms of American secret information? Did she state that she would be able to work within the American system for their own agenda? Are there links? As you said, she visited Garowe, which is the epicenter of piracy in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. And so they have links with the Houthis. And we know the Houthis are now currently attacking American military. So pretty pretty disturbing stuff with this lady, and Americans. And I think a investigative journalism piece would be highly required at this point, and and would be good to shed light. In fact, an FBI investigation and a CIA investigation is actually warranted. But let's initially, since this is in the public domain currently, let's settle for a investigative journalist to look into this lady and her supporters and the networks they are involved in. And also of note is her constituents appear to have been involved in mass embezzlement. Quite disturbingly, they've in the last. I was just a simple Google search for Somali theft Minnesota gives you multiple tweets as far back as 2018. In fact, I was aware of a big amount of embezzlement to the tune of approximately $250 million taken place during COVID. But I've come to know now there are multiple cases in Minnesota where individuals of Somali origin, particularly from her constituents and particularly her supporters, have embezzled tax money from the American people in 2018 using daycare, saying that they would be providing daycare, but actually fraudulently embezzled money then. They've then done that multiple times, and the latest being the 2020. They've then utilized that money to fund a terrorist insurgency in Somaliland last year, and subsequently also they've funneled money into different areas, possibly even to Al-Shabaab. So essentially all of this needs investigating, and there are lots of links to, as far as we are aware.
Actually,
Yeah,
sorry,
and
Landa.
oh, sorry, yeah.
It's not an alleged. We also Abdi Madobe, who's Al Shabaab leader in Las Anod. Straight after they started flooding into Las Anod and eastern borders of Somaliland. So Al Shabaab involvement in all of this is not a
Indeed,
secret.
sorry, yes, that isn't alleged, but I'm saying if there is direct link between this money that was laundered at that time, the embezzlement of 250 million, if there's a direct link, that needs to be investigated and highlighted. But you're absolutely correct, Darul Salam, Darul Somal. There is no, there is clear evidence of terrorism activity within Somaliland, and this small town of Las Anod is now a outpost of terrorism. So, and this is these are the kind of things that this lady and her supporters are involved in.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, Landis.
I would add to that. Thank you, Landa. I would add to that the fact that Ilham Omar, when she came to Somaliland and Somalian the Somalian government, actually, men in uniform, their BSF unit, their Gorgor unit in the army, their Haremat unit, and the other one's called Danab. All four in Somalia's uniform were in Somaliland and fighting alongside Al-Shabaab terrorist leader Abdi Madobe. And that all came as following Ilham's visit to Garowe. Um, and the interesting thing to mention is all hell broke loose once news of Somaliland signing an NDAA with the United States, if you recall. And the United States eventually would be getting a military, what do you call it, a base in Somaliland. And in order for her interest of the United States and Somaliland of granting the US post NDAA granting the US a military base in Berbera, she has she has started alongside them and Farah Halin and all the names that we all know to finance this military invasion that happened in Las Anod, including the Al Shabaab Abdi Madobe terrorist leads. I don't know if I made it clear here, Doctor. Please do make it because I tend to over speak and lose my point. So I hope I made that point clear. Back to you, Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. You've made that point very clear. And to also add on to that, Ilhan Omar, actually, at the beginning of this year, on January 4th, she introduced a resolution to block over $650 million in arms sales to Saudi
Sorry,
Arabia.
is the doctor speaking, Linda? 'Cause
Yes,
oh,
yes.
I'll drop and come back.
Okay, thank you, Hasna.
Yeah, and so she actually put up a resolution to that introduces a resolution. She put up a resolution to block over $650 million in sales to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, both of which are nations that are trying to essentially stabilize the region, trying to stop the Houthi attacks. And so it's quite interesting to see how a person from a region in Somalia that supports the Houthis, that supports attacks on Somaliland, how she's trying to further destabilize the region. She's essentially going against American foreign policy, in which America supports Saudi Arabia and the UAE based on the installations that they have. So it's quite interesting how she goes against, what America does. And to me, that further emphasizes my point in the sense that she is most doubtedly a spy for Somalia within Congress to see what type of resolutions Congress is putting forth. So it's a very unique lens that I think people should actually look into.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, Dr. Salman. The question is, whose payroll is she on? Is it failed state of Somalia, or is there another actor involved? And those are the questions we need to ask, and does need to be discovered. And I think the other interesting thing was that her supporters' reactions were quite interesting to me. Yesterday, they, I think, tried to see if things would die down, but then were quite concerned that even Elon actually tweeted regarding this issue, and recognizing that this was not going to go away, they then started to deny what she said, and then said actually she has a right. And then they said, well, that's going to be difficult. So then they said, okay, let's say that she has every right to say what she said. And actually at one point one of her supporters said she's a political genius, because she just said out loud what others were doing. Interesting take. She actually states that she attacks those of Jewish origin for supporting Israel and for using the political system of America to support Israel. Okay, say that's her stance, and yet is doing it herself. And even you could even argue that Jews have a vested interest in America for a long period of time, and they have and the actual the interests of America and Israel generally align. Let's say that is the case. However, the question is she saying that Somalia's and interests and America's align? I mean, again, it doesn't make sense. But I think another statement that one of her supporters said was that even IPAC tried to take this lady down, but they were not able to. Apparently she's above the law. Apparently she's untouchable, according to her supporters. And the question is why? Why do they think that? Is there some other entity that she works for? And so these are the questions we do need to ask, and why they seem to think that even with this brazen criminality, this brazen statements she's made, she's apparently untouchable still. So this was interesting to me. And even now, they don't consider it an act of treason, which goes to show that these constituents of hers and these supporters of hers also have the same frame of mind, and they also see their American citizenship as a tool to be used, and they don't have a strong allegiance to America at all.
Absolutely could not agree more. But I also actually want to touch up a little bit on why I believe Somalia is actually supporting this female, apart from a few brazen politicians, is mainly because Somalia knows that they do not have a case against Somaliland, in the sense that they are essentially walking around with the papers and documents of Somaliland. They are portraying themselves to be Somaliland. That's the way they got onto the United Nations seat. And at the same time, they are trying to complete and finalize the genocide that they started in 1988 of the Somalilanders today. I mean, when she makes these sort of claims of, stamping who's Somali and who's not, she's essentially trying to say that these people are, not our people. We can do whatever we want to them. We are defending our sovereignty, yada yada booba. So it's like a circle. It's a circular argument with this female. She goes from, calling out the Israelis and the Jews, saying that the Jews in America are supporting Israel and the Israelis. But then at the same time, she does the same thing herself. Great point by Lander. Darussalam, is there anything you wanted to add in? And before that, any of you guys downstairs in the gulag, if you want to come up and ask questions, you're more than welcome to. If you want to come up and share your opinion, you're more than welcome to. And hopefully you guys share this space so that more people can come in and learn more, inshallah. Welcome, Enzo. Is there anything you wanted to say? A question you had?
Oh yeah, thank you for having me, Dr. Salman. I just wanted to make it a critical, point, that, we need to discuss as well is this, lobbyist, Republican called, Kayvon Button. He's a lobbyist who has been paid by Villa Somalia, to spread the propaganda on behalf of the Somali government. And there's multiple tweets and evidence of him congratulating Hassan Sheikh and his team, partially for giving him the finance to do what he does best, which is lobby for, he's basically a gunman for the highest bidder. And that's what Von Botten is. So again, I would say to all of us, who are against this, ideology, of ILHAN Omar, her terrorist ideology, and all of the, degeneracies that she brings along with her ideologies. We should also make it known that Van Botten is a gun for hire, and we should also make it known that we're onto him as well. So again, to all of the Somalilanders that live in America, and the Ethiopian brothers and sisters who are also in mass that live in Ethiopia, that live in America too, please, make this known. There is a way that you can, fill out a form called the Congress Committee, a report. It's on my page if you follow me. and it's on multiple other, speakers here's page, where you can report ILHAN OMAR, to this committee, who can, actually voice their, because they've actually have a level of power where they can remove, this evil woman from this position, who's only there to stifle, our progress. And, as she said with her own words, she only joined the Congress, as a voice and a mouthpiece for Somalia. So we have to be critically aware of this. And at the same time, I would also advise, everybody who's hearing me on this panel today, please, make it known, what Kayvan Button is doing, and put him on blast so he understands that we're onto him as well. Thank you.
Also the Kenyans, not only the Ethiopians. She is what she was the ethno-nationalism, to annex and to incite against Ethiopia and for the Somali region and for northeastern province of Kenya also, and Somaliland. So 3 different countries, 3 different colonial borders of Africa that she wants to destroy to reunite her clansmen, simply because her clan is a minority in Ethiopia, minority in Somaliland, minority in Kenya, minority in Somalia, and minority everywhere. They're scattered. And what she wants to create this, they want other people like myself, a Somalilander. I have my extended family in Ethiopia. I've got some extended family in Djibouti. I've got some extended family in Kenya. And you don't see me going around asking to demolish all those colonial borders for ethno-nationalism.
Exactly, because that would be against international law, and as a congresswoman, she should know that, and she should know that is actually also against American policy. So again, a very strange statement, but since she is not actually working for America, maybe it shouldn't be a surprising statement. Yes, so Dr. Salman, did you want to add anything? Otherwise, Shormaka, you can go ahead.
Yeah, let's allow Sharmak to make his points, inshallah.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dr. Salman, Samal, and Landa, and everyone else listening. I just came up to make a couple of quick points, and I think you guys have been analysing it in a kind of fantastic way. The first point being this sort of kind of denial from people from Somalia. So their first tactic to deny was actually the subtitles were wrong. And then when they realized that wasn't going to stick because it was clear as day, what they did was they turned around and said, actually, it wasn't the spirit of what she was saying, which made it even more hilarious because what they're essentially saying is that, somehow it was rhetorical. And I think that's sort of kind of clear for everyone else that sort of kind of doesn't understand Somali or speak Somali to actually realize that the truth is with the subtitles, and for people to actually sort of kind of take it for what it is. And I know a number of different institutions and organizations are actually currently working on getting it independently verified. But the problem we have with that is the people that they're most likely going to go to get it verified from are obviously people from Somalia with an agenda. So it's fantastic that we actually got in there first, and we've got this evidence from, the horse's mouth, so to say, where actually their tweets went from these stages of denial to sort of kind of saying, actually, wait, it's not that right. From a sort of kind of American perspective, I think moving on from that, from an American perspective, the one thing that I find really interesting, especially today, looking at the information coming out from Somaliland and the Ministry of Interior, was the commentary around the fact that ILHAN was actually the person that leaked sensitive information when she went to Puntland Garowe. And I think that's a very, very, very critical and crucial point that definitely needs to be stressed and highlighted, and America needs to take seriously. It needs to be investigated by Americans, and they really do need to understand whether actually this happened, how it happened, why it happened, and how it cannot happen again. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss that point, and we stressed that to all the Americans that we know, and for it to be investigated. So there were the two very quick points that I wanted to raise. But keep up the good work, and thank you very much.
Interesting you said that, Sharmarke. If you saw the statement by Somaliland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they've mentioned that particular point where that they have accused her of leaking those sensitive information from the U.S. Congress to Garowe and to Somalia. And that takes us back to the point that I was making earlier, which is her trip to Garowe on February has just following her trip in February last year has encouraged or flamed and started. It was as if it was the last thing they were waiting for before striking, and that's when the terrorist came into Al-Shabaab terrorist, and Abdi Madobe, the leader of Shabaab terrorist, came to Las Anod with his Al-Shabaab team, and they started fighting alongside Somalia's men in uniform, which is the ones that were trained by the US and the EU and the international community, the DANAB, the Gorgor, BSF, and Haremat. All 4 units are trained by the international community with international community's taxpayer money, yet we're fighting and taking pictures alongside Abdi Madobe. And interesting that her trip, also following that trip, was after the NDAA has Somaliland news broke out about Somaliland, just about to sign and a study was taking place for the NDAA agreement between the Republic of Somaliland and the US, for the US to get a military base in Somaliland on the Bab el Mandeb and Berbera. So she was definitely actively working against the US interest, although she's a US legislator. So that was also a very interesting point, and should be investigated. I would investigate it if I was a US citizen or if I was a journalist. Back to you, Doctor. Thank you, Shamake. Very good point.
Absolutely. Sharmaki made amazing points. And I also wanted to emphasize who Ilhan Omar supports. Ilhan Omar supports a government that essentially allows Al-Shabaab members into its folds, from, the president of Jubaland being a former Al-Shabaab warrior to, uh, the Minister of Religion, Mukhtar Robo, who had a $5 million bounty on his head by the United States. I mean, this is the government that she supports. This is the people that she supports. So, any other?
I think that bounty on that minister is still up. He's still he's on the FBI's list or the CIA's list, the list that they have in the US. I'm not from the US, so excuse my ignorance. He's still on that list, and he still has a $5 million bounty on his head, which is funny enough.
I think that's incredibly shocking that there is evidence out there to say this is. I obviously had suspicions with her movements to the Horn of Africa and then her subsequent removal from the Foreign Committee. However, to to realize there is actual evidence that she subverted the NDAA, and which is to the detriment of America. Now America and the whole world is suffering currently because America does not have any access to the doesn't have as appropriate access to the Red Sea, and they would have had a base in Better at that time. So that's actually incredible, and to think that she's still in office is quite shocking to me.
I
Yeah.
don't think. Sorry, doctor.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I don't think she realized when she was speaking there. The I don't think she realized that people will be that the world now is a very small village, and everyone is has internet and videos that will circulate and eventually will make it to the wider to her constituents, to her colleagues, to the American government, to her to the entire world, will get a small glimpse into her psyche and the psyche of somebody who's a offspring of genocide is. So I don't think she thought that candid moment that she was having with her like-minded people, because you saw how much they were applauding when she was um, uh, reiterating all that genocidal rhetoric, which was shocking to me to listen to, not as a somebody who's affected by the Iraq genocide, but as a human being, as a decent human being. Listening to that, the genocidal rhetoric was shocking, to be honest. Sorry, doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, my daughter ran into my office space, so I had to quickly take her to the living room. So, anyways, what I was trying to say was, so yeah, the government of Somalia, the failed state, essentially is not really a government either. It's a provisional government with a provisional constitution, with a provisional president, meaning that nobody within Somalia or the people of Somalia haven't voted for the president. It was actually the MPs who could have been, for all we know, bribed into voting for Hassan Sheikh. But the one point of contention that I also wanted to show is how they are, former Al-Shabaab members within the government, and how they also actually work with Al-Shabaab. So, for those of you who don't know, there's this man named Fiqi, who is currently, I believe, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I believe he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was actually also in charge of their intelligence agency before he became a minister. And so there's actually evidence leading to the fact that he was utilizing Al-Shabaab members to, essentially do some shady business, threaten other, politicians, so on and so forth. And to also emphasize on what Darus Somal said, there are many groups within Somalia that are being trained by foreign countries like the United States and Turkey. Both of these forces were fighting inside of Somaliland, against Somaliland to destabilize Somaliland, and they were also fighting alongside Al-Shabaab. I mean, we've seen the videos, and hopefully we have documentation of these videos of which they are beheading people, they are cutting off, limbs of dead people, they're, rubbing spice and, chili and all these other things, jalapenos on these dead people's bodies, and they're essentially dancing over these bodies. Um, they're claiming that they're doing this out of, uh, tribalism, and this is being led by Somalia. Somalia is, forcing this or pushing this agenda. The same Somalia, which I think I made a report about this. Two Navy SEALs were trying to capture a boat coming from Iran that was destined to the Houthis, but I think they couldn't make it to Yemen. So instead, they wanted to dock near Puntland. And so these two Navy SEALs went after this boat and they disappeared. On around January 11th, the United States Command actually made a report about this, and they stated that they would do things secretly and that they did not want to, name the names of these Navy SEAls for the sake of the family's, privacy. And so a couple of days later, these Navy SEALs were actually found dead. So it further emphasizes the fact that Somalia itself cannot, you know, protect its ocean, protect its people. I mean, Al-Shabaab has been bombing uh, the capital, Mogadishu, the past couple of days, and they've also bombed Puntland, Bosaso, the past couple of days. And so it shows that Somalia itself is not actually wanting to wage a war against Al-Shabaab. It is actually utilizing Al-Shabaab to make millions of dollars in foreign aid. To me personally, in my opinion, um, they use Al-Shabaab as a way to make more money. They're not essentially wanting to fight Al-Shabaab. This is also a way that they keep the idea that if Somaliland gets recognized, that it would open a Pandora's box, which is absolutely a lie. The threat that they use to the international community is that it would further destabilize the region of the Horn of Africa, and that it would give Al-Shabaab some sort of, power or leverage, which to me doesn't make any sense. So there's many intricacies within what they're doing, but it's if you look at it from the aspect of how the government is working, they're not doing anything to Al Shabaab. I mean, I think a couple of days ago, or I think it was the past week, a UN plane carrying guns. Think about it. A United Nations helicopter, my bad, was carrying guns, and it landed in an area infested with Al Shabaab. A couple days later, 190 SNA soldiers were killed by Al Shabaab within that same area, within that same region within Somalia. So it shows that even the UN may be complicit with helping Somalia gain and garnish more funds. We've seen the compounds that they live in, that the United Nations and the British Embassy, the fake British Embassy within Somalia, and how they live within barricades, how they have their own little disco and all these sort of things. So it shows that Somalia is, making bank, it's making money. It's not really doing anything effectively against Al-Shabaab. And these are the sort of people that Ilhan Omar is supporting, um, and is essentially propping up, and is supporting within Congress from the United States, instead of, supporting American foreign policy. So there's a lot of things that could be talked about, but I think we've essentially covered it all. Um, any final remarks, Daro Somal, Lander, Enzo? And anybody else who has wants to come up and ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Please come up, ask a question, um, give your opinion. But this is going to be the final rounds of remarks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Daro Somal, Lander.
Sorry, I was going to say, Dr. Salman, yeah, these are fantastic points you've made. Essentially, the question is, why does she support this failed state? Why does she support anarchy? And does she and her kinfolk, do they benefit from this chaos? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. It is essentially this whole system where they've been supposedly fighting Al Shabaab for almost 2 decades is a charade, and it is a extreme. This is just a industrial scale racketeering and embezzlement of international funds, and a lot of individuals and groups of people are involved in this. And I think Ilhan is just the face of it, but there are multiple people and multiple investigations required to break down these networks. And I think this is the issue, really. This is what's propping her up. Why has she been able to get away with it for so long? I think it's more related to who she is connected to, and when she goes down, who will she take down with her? And I think that's going to be interesting. And I hope there are journalists and people of character and ethics who will take on this and investigate it and bring it to the public domain, so that this racketeering does not continue in the Horn of Africa, and also so that actually people can make true improvements in their lives, and not in terms of, like, for example, she mentioned that she was apparently working for Somalis, but she's not working for Somalis. She's working for a particular group, and the rest, the populace, are living in abject poverty, in instability, in decades of very difficult situation, and they don't need to be. That's the sad part of it. So I think she needs to be exposed, and the left, who are propping her up, who supposedly stand for the impoverished, for the downtrodden, need to realize that she is an oppressor of those people. And so hopefully they can turn their back on this despicable character as well. Thank you, Dr. Salman.
I believe Edna joined the space. Edna, you want to make a remark?
Thank you, Dr. Salman. Assalamu alaikum. It's going to be quick. I know you're closing. I just wanted to make sure that the global world realizes that Ilhan Omar is deliberate in hiding the statehood of Somaliland. This is very deliberate. The dictator Siad Barre in the 80s was able to bomb the Republic of Somaliland and its civilians. I argue more than 1 million people died. And this was because Somaliland borders were obscured, deliberately obscured, and the people of the world thought this was internal conflict. Ilhan Omar, in this speech even, her intent is genocide. She also strengthens the claim of Somalia that wants to annex and militarily occupy the Republic of Somaliland. The intent here is truly it's criminal, and I think the people of Somaliland, the government of Somaliland, the allies of Somaliland should file charges in U.S. courts. And Ilhan Omar is very brazen. You see that she othered us. She othered the people of Somaliland. She said that we were alien to that land. This is complicity to genocide. And why is she doing this? Because she thinks that she has the American government around her, wrapped around her finger. So I think the people of Somaliland should be courageous. We should put out the facts. She interfered with the NDAA Act. She didn't want Somaliland to be part of that alliance, defense alliance. We see what's happening here at the Bab al-Mandab Strait and the Red Sea. We know that she met with the architect of the Iraq genocide in December 2022. Subsequently, the Republic of Somaliland, the sole region, Las Anod, the city, the main city in the sole region of Somaliland, was invaded by a coalition of American-trained troops, terrorists, and violent militant group, the so-called SSC Khatumo. Ilhan Omar never talked about this. Ilhan Omar has not told the American public that the person she made the genocidia, Morgan, was funded by Osama bin Laden in the 1980s in Somalia. This is something the American government, the FBI should look into. What else? There's so many things. Ilhan Omar sat cozily with Hamza Barre, the so-called prime minister of Italia, Somalia, who blatantly was very blatant in his speech, calling Jews pigs and monkeys. So this is Ilhan
sons
Omar.
of pigs and monkeys.
Yeah, sons of pigs and monkeys. So how is this person a representative of American constituents? I truly don't get it. So we just have to tell our truth. We need to talk about the most important point I'm trying to make in this recording is for people to know that Ilhan Omar has hidden that the POWs of Somaliland were beheaded, many ISIS style, and that many are in captivity today, and that our family members are paying ransom to the people who are holding our POWs. They are not fed. So this is the most important point. I'm hoping that the American public, the American Congress, will send a fact-finding mission to the Republic of Somaliland to fact check me on my claims. Thank you, Dr. Salman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edna, for riveting, always factual remarks. This concludes the space. In the future, I will be holding spaces surrounding American politics and Somaliland's politics. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for listening.